quality, quality, quality. So
Absolutely.
if you can define a list for yourself that fits your profile and your personality and really get to know that list. And for me, that would be Dividend Kings, Dividend Aristocrats. So, and then figure out low PE and high dividend yield, and then watch the chart for areas of support. You're a lot of the way there.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cam. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Investapal, and we're welcomed by Sue. Sue runs one of Toronto's largest trading groups called the Toronto Investors and Traders StockTwits Meetup Group. It's actually the largest StockTwits group in North America, now sitting around 3,600 individuals. She's also focused on the positive point, educating individuals on financial literacy and coaching. Sue, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here. This is very exciting for me. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. I'm curious, if we can kind of to kick things off, I'd love to know a little bit of about you and your background in investing and how you got involved in growing one of the largest investor communities.
Oh, that's great. So I am going to date myself right away. And I'm going to say to you that the strongest memory that I have is when my brother graduated from business school many years ago, and he moved to California, and he was living at the time of the internet being developed, and he kept calling home and saying, guys, there's this thing called the internet coming, and there are these companies called Netscape and Broadcom, and he would send back Wired magazine, and I was eating it up. I loved it. But I had two young children. I was a mom. I didn't have a whole lot of time to really tuck into it. But in the next, decade, I saw the results of the impact of that internet, and I was blown away. I was totally hooked. So whenever I had a spare moment, I was studying the stock market and studying stock charts to get ready for the time when I'd have more time to invest. And so that led me down a path of joining different investment groups. And then about 5 years ago, I was co helping out. I was running or helping to run an investment group in Oakville where I live, and I was looking for a guest speaker. So I reached out to StockTwits on their page and said, "Hey, I'm looking for a guest speaker. Anyone interested in speaking to my group in Toronto?" And they reached out to me and said, "You live in Toronto? Because we would love someone to run our meetup group." And so I started running the meetup group. It was really small, and we used to meet in downtown Toronto at the Marché, and I'd reserve a space, a couple of tables, and we'd all sit around and have beers and burgers and talk the markets. And then COVID hit, which forced us online and on Zoom, which ended up being the biggest blessing in the whole wide world. Because from that point forward, I've got members now from all over the world, and anyone can join our events, which we run once a month. And we've seen tremendous growth. And the thing that I'm most proud of is over that 5 year period, I've got 400 comments on my meetup page, and pretty much all of them are super positive, giving me a 5-star rating on Meetup, which is really cool.
Oh, wow, very impressive.
Yeah.
So to take a step back from that, so you got excited during the dot-com boom,
Yes.
and did you teach yourself through the community, through online forums, how to trade and how to invest?
I joined several groups where we'd meet in person, and I saw people really excel in their trading. I can think of a couple of people that really tucked into their education, and the differential was when they got into personal one-on-one coaching, and then their trading just took on a whole new aspect, and they became really successful. I wish I'd done that. I didn't, so my route was a lot slower. But pretty much just in person, small groups of serious investors meeting and exchanging ideas, and it just grew from there.
Very interesting. And I'd love to know a little bit more about your investment process. Do you focus in on the fundamentals, the technicals?
My gosh, my process is I'm a perfectionist. And so I was saying to Abdi earlier, there are some tools that I think are so invaluable. So I'm a big journaler. So whenever I take a trade, I have an Evernote account, and I would recommend anyone that is getting into this journal, journal, journal. And Evernote is an amazing free tool. So it costs nothing. Now I'm a premium member because I use it to the max. But I do a lot of my homework on the weekend and I set up my trades on the weekend but with alerts. So when the alert triggers, it tells me, okay, I go back to my notes and here's what I do, which is really cool. I don't do it religiously anymore, but I used to. On the weekend, I would film a little video, like 1 or 2 minutes in length, where I'm walking myself through the stock chart so that I clearly understand why I'm interested in this particular stock, say it's Apple, bouncing off the 20 period simple moving average, past earnings, volume picking up, that sort of thing. And then I would put all of my fundamental data in there as well. So I marry the fundamentals with the technicals. As I said to you earlier before our thing started, I love the Dividend Aristocrats, the Dividend Kings. So that's my wheelhouse because I'm an older person. So I'm more conservative. Having said that, I'm also a Tesla lover. So I love whenever Tesla's in my coming into an area of support, I'm buying Tesla. But for the most part, in my meetups for new people, I'm saying quality, quality, quality. So
Absolutely.
if you can define a list for yourself that fits your profile and your personality and really get to know that list. And for me, that would be Dividend Kings, Dividend Aristocrats. So, and then figure out low PE and high dividend yield, and then watch the chart for areas of support. You're a lot of the way there.
And do you focus primarily in the Canadian market for that, or is it more
Oh, for
American?
me, I'm a US investor 80%. So I have two accounts. One is funded in US dollars and one in Canadian. Um, because I'm an active swing trader, so for me in my active account, a swing trader means, for instance, I took a position in Tesla about 2.5 weeks ago when it was at support. I'm still in that trade as long as the daily chart is above a certain moving average.
Hmm.
And for me, I'm going to have a tighter moving average because I'm actively watching it every day. So if you're a long-term investor, you might use a 50 SMA, a simple moving average, or a 20. For me, I'm going to use more like an 8. And as long as price on that daily chart is above that 8, I am staying in that trade. So
So big momentum investor.
exactly.
Yep.
So you can be in that trade for a week, 2 weeks, sometimes a month. But that is what I would define as a swing trader.
Yeah, okay, very interesting. And obviously, like the dividend aristocrats, for anyone listening who's not familiar, they have a very long track record of paying out consistent dividends, and as a result are viewed as high quality typically because they have sustainable cash flows and they're able to pay consistent dividends to their investors. And I think that's very important, especially in this sort of market. So do you find most of your opportunities, I know you focus more on the dividend aristocrats.
Well, here's what I do. So, as part of my process on the weekend, I'm always going to look at the broader market. So, I study the S&P, the Dow, and the Russell, the Qs, and in this environment, I'm looking at the SMH, which is the ETF for the semiconductor space. So, it became pretty clear a couple of months ago that the semis were bouncing off an area of support and they were starting to lead the market, which in my monthly events, I was saying, guys, this is the first clue that this market might want to lift from here because everyone was gun shy. Recession's coming, banks are failing, blah, blah, blah. And I went, wait, what? The market, the chart, this is what I love about technical analysis. It is what it is. The chart is telling you it's black and white. It doesn't have an opinion. It is going higher.
Yep.
And so, what I do on the weekend is I look at those big indexes and then I tuck into the 11 sectors of the S&P and I see which sectors are showing strength, and then I pick the best candidate in that sector that I can find. And so I ran an event last night, and we were looking at Texas Instruments as a possible setup for the week ahead. So I got all my homework done. I've got all my fundamentals in my notes, and when it triggers, it triggers. So it's an if this, then that kind of scenario.
Okay, very fascinating. So yeah, top-down view, looking for areas of alpha on a sector basis, and then you drill into those individual sectors for the best performers within that.
Exactly. And if I were to offer another, just to touch on what you said earlier about the Dividend Aristocrats. So, Dividend Aristocrats, it's a list of about 65 names that have been reliably paying their dividend for 25 consecutive years, growing or reliably paying their dividend. So, when I do that sector study on the weekend, I can always find a Dividend Aristocrat in that sector, right? Whether it's utilities or banks or so that's where I'm going to start to fish. um, and it's not that I'm exclusively looking at Dividend Aristocrats, but if I were coaching someone that was new, that, I want to simplify it for them and say, let's take this universe of 9,000 stocks and put it into a basket of, 100, and let's focus on that 100, and let's get you used to that environment, and then we'll broaden it out. But that's something to think about. And then the Dividend Kings are even a shorter list of about 45 names that have been paying their dividend for 50,
Oh
50,
wow.
50 consecutive years. And on that list, you're going to find Stanley Black and Decker, um, off the top of my head.
Well, it's going to be like banks and industrials, I
Yeah,
guess, because the tech companies haven't really been around for long
right.
enough.
So
Yeah.
in a market that we've had for the last couple of months, if you're a fund manager and you're wanting to wade back into the market, you're probably going to be a little more comfortable telling your client, "Hey, I got you into Stanley Black and Decker, or Altria pays a dividend yield of over 8%." Um, you know what I mean? If you're sitting across from a client and you want to explain why you got them back in when they might be a little nervous about recession, skies falling. So my thinking is those guys will always be bid first when they are at areas of support and they have those juicy, juicy dividends. They will be the ones that people are attracted to first.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even out of a recession, it's usually industrials and cyclical types of
Yeah,
stocks that perform well. So Black
yeah,
and Decker fit right in that bucket.
yeah, yeah. So that's my process in a nutshell.
Okay, very interesting. So, you've spent a lot of time with the retail investor market. I'm sure you've seen a massive inflow of new people to your community. What would you say people get wrong around the typical retail investor? And have you seen a lot of new entrants into the market, and how have they been navigating that so far?
Yeah. So last year, StockTwits was generous enough to throw me a budget where I could host these in-person events in downtown Toronto. So I rented out a space in Walrus Pub, which is right on Bay Street, and it was free food and drinks to build our community and for us to network. So roughly 70 to 80 people would come to those events, and that's where I would meet my people in person, and that's where I saw the new people coming into the community. A lot of them were new to Canada. And I always applaud people when they struggle with their English and they wade into subjects like this one and join groups like ours, because a lot of our meetups are, I try to explain candlesticks and stuff to beginners at the beginning of every meeting, but then we quickly get into the charts and it gets pretty meaty. Uh,
Hmm.
and so I applaud these people that are new to investing and new to Canada for coming out and wading into this stuff. So what I loved about those events was I could see people finding their people. Like I saw
Right.
the options guys finding their corner of the room and talking nothing but options. And then the Tesla people over here. And so that those in-person events that I had were really valuable. I really liked them and they really did a good job of building our community. And then we ran, 2022 wasn't good for tech companies and StockTwits cut funding for those, but I hope they get reignited because I think it's really valuable for people to meet face to face and build that trust and that community.
Absolutely. And so I'm curious, how long would you say, so a new investor joins your meetup group, how long does it take for them to get up to speed and be able to understand what you're talking about and be able to actually go and trade on their own?
That's a good question. So I find the people that, a lot of people just kind of kick the tire. So I see them come to an event, they enjoy it, they leave a positive comment, but they might not come to another one, or they'll come to two or three and then they lose interest. We all know that this knowledge does not come without a really big commitment of, a lot of time. And so the ones that come every month and we have this exchange where it's, sometimes there are only 20 or 30 people in the room. So everyone's on a mic and we actively look at charts and talk about it as a group. Those people that come month after month after month are the ones that really excel and really start to understand the concept. So my advice would be find a group you like, that trade the way you do. And this is the value of a place like StockTwits, which is all about social leverage, right? So you can find me on StockTwits and you can follow me in the charts that I post. And if they appeal to you, if you're a Dividend Aristocrat person, you'll find me and you'll like my charts, and you and I will share ideas on the board around that particular chart. And then you can come to my meetup and we can talk in person. So we're living in an era of amazing opportunities for people that really want to be focused and committed about their financial literacy and education.
Absolutely. And it just boils down to them actually putting in the time to be
Yeah,
able to learn this. Like anyone's able to learn it, you just have to set aside some time to
yeah,
actually figure it out.
yeah. Like I've always had a passion, honestly. After all these years, I never get tired of looking at stock charts. Like every single day, I'm studying them. I'm still learning. There are so many cool facets. It's just, it just never ceases to amaze me. So it's an easy sell for me. I'm always going to be there. But I can see if you're just a tire kicker and you're not that committed, it might not be something that you excel at.
Yeah, absolutely. In a previous life, I was a technical analyst, and my boss at the time would go home on the train every single night and go through, I think, every 500 S&P 500 constituent and TSX constituent on a regular basis, and that's just like instead of reading, it was looking at
Yeah,
charts consistently.
yeah. And I never get tired of it.
Yep.
Honestly, it's my favorite thing to do, especially in the
Yeah.
morning with my coffee.
Well, it's the ability to make money, so of course it's of interest.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So Sue, if we change gears a little bit, I'm curious to know what's next on your horizon. You've been able to build up this big community. You've been working with lots of, retail investors on increasing their financial literacy. What are you specifically passionate about within that community, and how are you looking at continuing to grow it?
Okay, so I think the next horizon for me is the women demographic because I host these events and women are super smart. They're making a lot of decisions in their households, whether it's buying a car, buying a house, or what investments they choose to be involved in. But I see them, a lot of the men are the ones that step forward and ask the questions and engage the conversation. And sometimes I feel the women sort of, not all women, but I feel that there's a little bit of a laying back. And so I would like to be the champion of coaching women in particular, because I think I know how they think and how they operate, and getting them to lean in, to borrow a phrase from Sheryl Sandberg. Remember that? She was the gal that helped start Facebook with,
Yeah, COO, yeah.
yeah, and lean in and learn this stuff, even if it's just to sit across the desk from your advisor once a year and know what he's saying and be able to have the confidence to perhaps challenge him on his thinking.
Why do you think it has been difficult for women to enter the market?
That's a good question. I think from my own personal point of view, you're pulled in many different directions a lot of the time, and you've got to prioritize sometimes. And it's easy uh to let your husband take the lead on those things when you're busy. Like, you might be have a job and raising your children, and your time is limited. Um, but the value of learning this is incredible. And so I'm just a huge advocate for women. And even at my age, I'm part of investment groups where men are starting to plan for their departure and moving their portfolio into the hands of their wives who have not really been involved or done it ever. And if I can, after their husband dies,
Yeah,
I'm
then
sure
what?
I'm sure there's, even though it's probably left in the hands of someone advising them, there's a real advantage to having that confidence and knowing for yourself. Yes, you've got an advisor, but you need to be able to vet their advice and have that knowledge, and maybe someone like me helping you out and just bringing you up to speed a little bit more. There's just so many areas when it comes to women and their finances that um, I think it'd be such a huge advantage for them to really get into.
Absolutely. I've taken over my mom's portfolio. So she's like, Cam, just tell me what to invest in, and I have to coach her along and tell her, how to enter in a trade to her RBC account and actually purchase those securities. And then even like with InvestApal, a couple of my friends building a portfolio for them, both women, and then sharing the portfolio to say, hey, here's how you guys can get some exposure. So it's definitely I could see the need in the market for it.
Yeah,
Firsthand experience.
yeah. So that might be my new frontier.
Yeah, it's very fascinating. So how can people reach out to you agnostic of the StockTwits community, if there was a woman listening to this right now or a
Yeah,
new Canadian or anyone else who wants to
absolutely.
learn?
Absolutely. So, two things I would say: join my meetup group, that Toronto Investors and Traders StockTwits meetup group. If you can post a link to that along with in the show notes, perhaps. And then I've started a Facebook group around the positive point. So it's new, it's just starting, but it's a great way to connect with me. I will be posting in there a couple of times a week. And it's sort of an extension to my Toronto StockTwits group where we keep the conversation going and we share ideas on that in that Facebook group. So for now, it's simple. I'm starting off slow. I don't really know social media, so if there's anyone out there that can help me out with it, that'd be great too.
I'm sure one of us can lend a hand.
Yeah, yeah, you
Yeah.
guys are great. You guys are great. And I'm so looking forward to your night coming up,
Yes, yeah, we'll be on the meetup June 20th.
June 20th. Yeah.
We'll talk about AI and how that fits into your portfolio management process. So
Yeah,
it should be
it's
very interesting.
very exciting what you guys are doing. Should be very proud of your initiative. It's great.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we're at 85 million of retail assets being managed on the platform. So retail investors managing their own wealth. It's grown quite significantly. So yeah, we're very proud of that,
That's very cool.
and very looking forward to jumping on the meetup and helping out more individual investors manage their wealth.
Yeah. Well, it'll be a very engaging night, I promise you.
We're looking forward to it. Sue, any last words?
No, just that I'm really glad that our paths brought us to each other. I'm your champion out there. Thank you for being mine.
Thank you, of
And
course.
thank you very much for inviting me to be a guest on your podcast. I'm excited to see how it turns out.
Absolutely. All right, everyone, that would conclude our chat with Sue. I will post the show notes. You can get in contact with her, join her meetup group or the Positive Point Facebook group as well. Please stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.